Ambassador Keytrix of the Regulan Collective had seen many strange things during their diplomatic mission to Earth, but this latest discovery threatened to short-circuit their universal translator. They stood in the gleaming SpaceX facility, multiple antennae twitching in confusion as they reviewed the employee directory. "Pardon my query," Keytrix clicked their mandibles together, a gesture humans had learned meant polite bewilderment. "But why does your organizational structure list Zach Thompson's title as Engineering Wizard? I was under the impression that Earth had moved beyond belief in supernatural forces." Melissa Wong, the facility's PR director, tried not to laugh. "Oh, that's just what we call our really talented engineers. It's not literal magic, just really advanced technical skills." Keytrix's antenna drooped slightly. "But your technology is notably behind Regulan standards. We achieved quantum tunneling while your species was still arguing about whether the Earth was flat." At that moment, a loud crash echoed through the facility, followed by what sounded suspiciously like maniacal laughter. Melissa closed her eyes and muttered something that sounded like a prayer. "Speaking of Zach," she sighed. Around the corner came a blur of movement, a lanky human male riding what appeared to be a modified hoverboard, constructed from spare rocket parts, trailing blue plasma exhaust and narrowly missing several $1 billion worth of sensitive equipment. "Behold the power of science," Zach Thompson hollered as he zipped past, his lab coat fluttering behind him like a cape. Several junior engineers applauded, while others ducked for cover. Keytrix's translator actually sparked this time. That device violates at least 7 laws of conventional physics." "Yeah, Zach does that," Melissa nodded. "He once built a quantum computer out of paperclips and an old Nintendo. Nobody's quite sure how it works, but it can run Doom." "This is highly irregular." Keytrix's voice carried a note of genuine distress. "Engineering should follow proper protocols and establish theoretical frameworks. Your species appears to be improvising." "Oh, you haven't seen anything yet," Melissa grinned. "Wait until you meet our software developers. We call them code wizards." Keytrix's response was cut short by an urgent message flickering across their neural interface. Their compound eyes widened in alarm. "This is most unfortunate timing. The Embassy's quantum communication array has experienced a critical malfunction. Our engineering team is already working on it, but—" Another crash, followed by more whooping from Zach's direction. "Perhaps," Keytrix seemed to be struggling with some internal conflict, "perhaps we could benefit from a different perspective. Would your engineering wizard be available for consultation?" "Someone said they need a wizard?" Zach's head popped around the corner, his safety goggles slightly askew, and his hair standing on end from what appeared to be static electricity. "I have been summoned." Melissa gave Keytrix an apologetic look. "I should warn you, Zach's solutions tend to be a bit unorthodox," Keytrix suggested hopefully. "I was going to say terrifying, but sure, let's go with unorthodox." As they watched Zach attempting to dismount his hoverboard, which now seemed to be stuck in hover mode, Keytrix couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to learn exactly why humans referred to their engineers as wizards. They just hoped their embassy would survive the experience. "Don't worry," Zach announced, finally freeing himself from the rogue hoverboard with a graceful faceplant. "I've got duct tape and WD-40. We can fix anything." Keytrix's translator gave up entirely and shut down in protest. The Regulan Embassy's engineering bay looked like what would happen if you asked a supercomputer to design a cathedral while on acid. Crystalline structures pulsed with quantum energy, holographic displays flickered in 7 dimensions, and in the center of it all stood Palax, the Regulan chief engineer, trying very hard not to have what humans would call a nervous breakdown. "The quantum harmonics are completely destabilized," Palax reported, their carapace clicking anxiously. "We've lost communication with 17 star systems, 3 parallel dimensions, and somehow, though I cannot begin to explain how, last Thursday, Keytrix surveyed the chaos while Zach Thompson walked circles around the quantum array, occasionally poking it with a bent coat hanger he'd found somewhere. Our most advanced diagnostic tools show no clear cause," Palax continued. We've attempted standard quantum realignment protocols, tried rerouting through backup probability matrices, and even performed the sacred ritual of turning it off and on again. "Have you tried hitting it?" Zach asked, still poking. The entire Regulan engineering team froze in horror. "I'm going to call in reinforcements," Zach announced, pulling out his phone. "We need a true master of the dark arts for this one." 20 minutes later, Morgan Rodriguez strode into the embassy like they owned the place. NASA's top systems engineer hadn't even bothered changing out of their pajamas, which featured cartoon rockets and the text, "In space, no one can hear you" code. They carried a battered toolbox that looked older than most of the junior engineers present. "So," Morgan said, taking a long sip from a coffee mug that read, "Technomancer Supreme. What seems to be the problem?" Palax launched into a complex explanation involving quantum mechanics, probability fields, and something about cosmic string theory. Morgan nodded along while rummaging through their toolbox, occasionally making and noises. "And that's why we believe the entire system could achieve cascade failure within the next 6 hours, Palax concluded. Cool, Morgan replied, pulling out what appeared to be a rubber chicken. "Quick question. When was the last time you cleaned the quantum flux capacitors?" "Cleaned?" Palax's antenna twitched in confusion. "These are self-maintaining quantum systems. They don't require cleaning." Morgan and Zach exchanged a knowing look. "You know what this means," Morgan said gravely. Zach nodded. "We're gonna need the code witch." "Who is this code witch?" Catrix demanded, their patience wearing thin as another bank of holographic displays flickered and died. "And why do you insist on referring to your technical specialists with mystical titles?" "Jamie Parker," Morgan explained, already typing on their phone. "Google's finest once debugged an AI by explaining rubber duct debugging to the AI itself. The duct gained sentience, but that's a whole other story." "This is highly irregular," Palax protested. "Our systems are the most advanced in known space. They require precision, expertise, and—" They were interrupted by a loud gurgling sound as the quantum array began to emit what appeared to be soap bubbles. Rainbow-coloured, 7-dimensional soap bubbles. "Are they supposed to do that?" Zach asked, poking one with his coat hanger. The bubble dodged. "Absolutely not," Palax shrieked, their professional composure finally cracking. "This defies all known laws of physics." "Oh, good," Morgan grinned, setting down their coffee mug. "Those are my favourite laws to break. Jamie's on their way. They said to start without them, but not to have too much fun with the quantum stuff." "How do you define too much fun in this context?" Catrix asked nervously. A soap bubble floated by, humming what sounded suspiciously like the theme from The X-Files. "Don't worry," Zach said, now trying to catch bubbles in his coat hanger like a demented butterfly net. "I'm sure we won't accidentally create any parallel universes this time." "This time," Palax squeaked. Morgan was already halfway inside the quantum array's maintenance panel. "Hey, can someone hand me that rubber chicken? And maybe call the quantum physics department at MIT. Just in case." Catrix watched in mounting horror as their embassy's most sophisticated piece of technology was about to be serviced with a rubber chicken. They made a mental note to update their diplomatic reports with a new category. Human engineering. Approach with caution. The soap bubbles had started harmonizing now. It was a surprisingly good rendition of Bohemian Rhapsody. Jamie Parker arrived at the Regulan embassy exactly 42 minutes later, wearing a hoodie covered in binary code and carrying what appeared to be a perfectly normal laptop. The only unusual thing about the laptop was that it was running an operating system that wouldn't be invented for another 3 centuries. "Sorry I'm late," Jamie announced, stepping over a quantum bubble that was now reciting Shakespeare's sonnets. "Had to finish debugging a neural network. It started writing poetry about cats, and you know how that goes." "The code witch," Zach exclaimed, attempting to extract himself from where he'd gotten tangled in multiple probability strings. "Quick question. Is it normal for quantum particles to start speaking in tongues?" "Depends on the tongue," Jamie replied, setting up their laptop. "If it's Klingon, we're fine. If it's Kobol, we're all doomed." Morgan emerged from deep within the quantum array, covered in what might have been quantum grease, and holding the now slightly scorched rubber chicken. Good news and bad news. Good news. I found the problem. Bad news. It's not supposed to exist in this dimension. Palax, who had been stress molting for the past hour, chittered in despair. This is unprecedented. We need to follow proper protocols. We should establish a committee to review the situation, draft a formal analysis, and— Yeet! Zack shouted, throwing a wrench at a particularly aggressive quantum bubble that had started quoting Nietzsche. The bubble caught the wrench, considered it philosophically, and began a dissertation on the metaphysical properties of tools. Catrix watched in fascination as Jamie opened up what looked like a terminal window, except the commands were being typed by small digital cats walking across the keyboard. Is this standard Earth programming practice? Ah, Jamie replied, scratching one of the digital cats behind its ears. This is just my debug environment. You should see my production setup. It runs on pure chaos theory and spite. Morgan had somehow acquired a whiteboard and was drawing what appeared to be a complex diagram involving ducts, string theory, and at least one coffee stain that might have been intentional. Okay, Team Huddle. Here's what we know. The quantum array is having an existential crisis. Time is leaking sideways, and someone, not naming names, Zack, tried to fix it with interpretive dance. Hey, quantum mechanics responds to observation. I was just trying to observe. Rhythmically, Zack defended himself, while attempting to untangle the probability strings, which had now formed themselves into a cat's cradle pattern. Jamie's digital cats had managed to write some code that made the terminal window fold itself into a Klein bottle. Good news, everyone. I've identified the root cause. Bad news. It's written in regex. The entire room groaned. Even the quantum bubbles seemed to deflate slightly. Palax's antenna twitched violently. What is this regex? Imagine trying to describe the infinite complexity of the universe using only punctuation marks, Morgan explained. Now imagine doing that while having an aneurysm. That's not very reassuring, Catrix noted. Oh, it gets better, Jamie grinned, their fingers flying across the keyboard as the digital cats chased syntax errors around the screen. The quantum array isn't just malfunctioning, it's running the universe's worst code review. As if on cue, one of the holographic displays started listing programming jokes in binary. Another began drawing crude SCI art of what might have been a duck, or possibly an elder god. Right, Morgan said, capping their whiteboard marker with determination. Zack, get your interpretive dance shoes ready. Jamie, keep your cats on standby. I'm going to need that rubber chicken again, and someone find me a paperclip. We're going to attempt something that violates at least 3 international treaties, and possibly the laws of thermodynamics. Should we not perhaps consult the Regulan Engineering Council first? Palax suggested weakly. No time, Jamie replied, as their laptop began emanating a soft purring sound. The quantum bubbles have started a book club, and they're reading Kafka. Once they get to the Metamorphosis, we're all in trouble. Catrix watched as the 3 human engineers huddled together, drawing diagrams in the air and occasionally giggling in a way that made their carapace crawl. They had a sudden, distinct feeling that they were about to witness either a miracle or a catastrophe, possibly both. They ventured carefully. Should we perhaps evacuate the non-essential personnel? Nah, Zack grinned, already warming up with some stretches. But you might want to put on sunglasses and maybe get a fire extinguisher. The quantum kind, if you have it. A quantum bubble floated by, humming the theme from 2001, A Space Odyssey, while solving Fermat's last theorem. Palax looked at their carefully organized toolkit, then at the 3 humans preparing what appeared to be some sort of techno-ritual involving a rubber chicken, interpretive dance, and quantum computing cats. I should have become a poet like my progenitor wanted, they muttered, as the laws of physics prepared to take a coffee break. All right, Morgan announced, standing before the quantum array with the authority of someone who had fixed NASA's coffee maker during a Mars landing. Here's the plan. Jamie, Your quantum cats have isolated the rejects issue. Jamie nodded, their laptop now hovering slightly above the desk. They've narrowed it down to a semicolon having an existential crisis in the fifth dimension. Classic case of imposter syndrome. Perfect, Zach. How's your interpretive dance coming along? Zach had somehow acquired a tutu over his lab coat. I've choreographed a routine that should convince the quantum particles they're being observed by an enthusiastic audience. I call it the Heisenberg Uncertainty Pirouette. Palax watched this exchange with the same expression a medieval monk might have worn, watching someone explain cryptocurrency. This cannot possibly be a valid engineering methodology. That's what makes it work, Morgan grinned, pulling a roll of duct tape from their toolbox. See, your quantum array is too smart for its own good. It's overthinking everything. We need to introduce an element of pure chaos to shock it back to normal. Chaos? Catrix's antenna drooped. But our systems are built on perfect order and precision. Exactly your problem, Jamie said, while their digital cats played quantum catch with string theory variables. You've made it so perfect that when something goes wrong, it has no idea how to be imperfect. It's like a straight-A student having their first B- moment. Morgan had begun applying duct tape to specific points on the quantum array, occasionally consulting their whiteboard diagram, which now included several doodles of dinosaurs wearing party hats. The technical term for what we're about to do is percussive maintenance enhanced by probability manipulation through interpretive dance. In normal person speak, Zach added, stretching his hamstrings, we're going to hit it while I dance and Jamie's cats confuse it with bad code. Palax made a sound like a dial-up modem having a panic attack. Now, Morgan continued, positioning the rubber chicken precisely. When I give the signal, Jamie's going to execute their code, Zach will begin his dance, and I'm going to apply carefully calculated physical adjustments to the system. You're going to hit our multi-billion credit quantum array with a rubber chicken, Catrix translated flatly. While Zach dances and quantum cats write bad poetry and rejects, Jamie confirmed cheerfully. Don't forget that part. It's crucial. Morgan had finished creating what looked like a Rube Goldberg machine made of duct tape, paper clips, and several pieces of string. The rubber chicken hung suspended above a particular crystal, gently swaying in what might have been a quantum breeze. "Ready?" Morgan called out. Jamie's fingers hovered over their keyboard, their digital cats crouched in starting positions. "Ready! Cats are primed and the rejects is properly malformed." "Ready!" Zach announced, striking a pose that would have made both Einstein and Baryshnikov cringe. "This is against every engineering principle in the known galaxy," Palax whimpered. "That's why it's going to work," Morgan winked. "Sometimes you need to think so far outside the box that you forget boxes exist. Hit it." What happened next would later be classified as Incident Q7B, the rubber chicken event, in Regulan diplomatic records. Jamie's quantum cats unleashed a cascade of deliberately terrible code, causing the holographic displays to start playing what appeared to be a techno remix of cosmic background radiation. Zach launched into his interpretive dance, a performance that somehow managed to simultaneously observe and not observe quantum states while telling the story of a packet loss in interpersonal relationships. Several quantum bubbles joined in, forming a chorus line, and Morgan, with the precision timing of a concert conductor, released the rubber chicken. The resultant cascade of events involved 17 quantum probability chains braiding themselves into a friendship bracelet, a brief but passionate romance between two quantum particles that had previously only been wave functions, 3 parallel universes having a minor fender bender, the brief appearance of a confused-looking dinosaur wearing a party hat, vindicating Morgan's whiteboard doodles, and finally the rubber chicken striking the exact point where the quantum array's crystalline structure had been having its existential crisis. The entire system froze for a moment. The quantum bubbles held their breath, despite not having lungs. Even the digital cat stopped mid-keystroke. Then, with a sound like a cosmic sigh of relief, everything snapped back to normal. The holographic displays stabilized, the quantum bubbles popped out of existence, though faint echoes of Bohemian Rhapsody could still be heard in the ultraviolet spectrum, and the array hummed back to life with its usual efficient precision. Polax stared at their diagnostic tools in disbelief. Everything is functioning within normal parameters. Actually, efficiency is up 3.7% compared to our baseline. Told you, Morgan said, retrieving the rubber chicken and giving it a respectful pat. Sometimes you just need to remind technology that perfection is overrated. Catrix looked from the now perfectly functioning array to the three human engineers. Morgan calmly packing away their tools, Jamie's cats taking a victory lap around their screen, and Zack still finishing his interpretive dance with a flourish. "I think," Catrix said slowly, "I'm beginning to understand why you call them wizards." A final quantum bubble floated by, winked somehow, and disappeared with a pop that sounded suspiciously like ta-da. In the aftermath of what Regulan historians would later call the Great Quantum Percussive Maintenance Event, Catrix found themselves hosting an impromptu debriefing session in the embassy's conference room. The three human engineers sat on one side of the table, sharing a large pizza that Zack had somehow manifested through mysterious means, Uber Eats, while Polax and a team of Regulan scientists occupied the other side, frantically taking notes. "Let me ensure I understand this correctly," Catrix began, their antenna twitching in what might have been admiration or a mild seizure. "You fixed our quantum array, which represents the pinnacle of Regulan engineering achievement, using a rubber chicken, interpretive dance, and intentionally bad programming." "Don't forget the duct tape," Morgan added helpfully, wiping quantum grease off their hands with a paper towel. "Duct tape is crucial. It's like the Force. It has a light side, a dark side, and it holds the universe together." Polax had been quietly running simulations on their datapad for the past hour. "But this shouldn't be possible. We've analyzed the repair methodology, and it violates 73 fundamental laws of physics." "Only 73. Zack looked almost disappointed. "We must be losing our touch. Usually we hit triple digits." Jamie's laptop was still purring contentedly, their quantum cats now taking a well-deserved nap in the recycling bin. "The thing is," they explained, grabbing another slice of pizza, "you Regulans approach engineering like it's a precise science, and sure, that works great when everything's going according to plan, but when things go wrong—" "You need a little chaos to fight chaos," Morgan finished. "It's like trying to speak to someone who's panicking. If you stay too calm and logical, you can't connect with their emotional state." "Are you suggesting," Polax asked incredulously, "that we should treat our technology as if it has feelings?" "Everything has feelings," Zack nodded sagely. "Even code, especially code. Why do you think we have bug reports that say, 'works on my machine'? The code is just shy on other computers." Catrix watched as their best scientists frantically documented everything, including Zack's interpretive dance moves, which one researcher was attempting to correlate with quantum field fluctuations. "But the efficiency increase," Polax protested weakly. 3.7% above baseline. It's unprecedented." "Sometimes systems just need a little encouragement," Jamie shrugged. "And by encouragement, I mean a gentle reminder that perfection isn't everything. It's like when you're coding. The moment you accept that your code will never be perfect, that's when it starts working better." Morgan pulled out their whiteboard marker and began drawing on the conference room's glass wall. "Look at it this way. Your quantum array was stuck in a local maximum of efficiency. By introducing controlled chaos, or as we call it, percussive maintenance with style, we knocked it into a better configuration space." "Through interpretive dance," Catrix stated flatly. "Through interpretive dance," Morgan confirmed cheerfully. "The universe loves a good show." One of the Regulan scientists raised an appendage. "But how do we replicate these results? We need standardized procedures, controlled variables, peer-reviewed methodologies." "That's exactly what you don't need," Zack interrupted, now building a small fort out of empty pizza boxes. "The moment you try to standardize chaos, it stops being chaos. You have to embrace the uncertainty." The uncertainty principle was not meant to be an engineering methodology, Polax wailed. Jamie's cats had woken up and were now playing quantum Tetris with probability functions. Look at it this way. Your technology is based on quantum mechanics, right? And quantum mechanics is all about probability and uncertainty. So maybe, just maybe, sometimes you need to fight quantum with quantum. Through interpretive dance, Catrix repeated, still struggling with this part. And rubber chickens, Morgan added. Don't forget the rubber chickens. Catrix looked around the room, at the human engineers casually defying physics while eating pizza, at their scientists furiously documenting everything including the pizza toppings, on the theory that perhaps pepperoni had previously unknown quantum properties, at Polax, who seemed to be going through the 5 stages of grief regarding their engineering principles. I believe, Catrix said slowly, we may need to revise our understanding of the term wizard as it applies to human engineers. Oh? Morgan raised an eyebrow. Yes, Catrix nodded. We had assumed it was merely a quaint cultural term, but now I understand. You are called wizards because you routinely accomplish the impossible, while breaking every natural law in existence, and yet somehow make it work better than it did before. That's the nicest description of my job I've ever heard, Jamie grinned. Usually people just scream, "How did you do that?" and back away slowly. Speaking of which, Zack piped up from his pizza box fort. Anyone want to see my new quantum-enhanced hoverboard design? I've almost worked out how to make it run on memes. The sound Polax made could only be described as a quantum scream of terror. 1 month after the great quantum percussive maintenance event, Catrix found themselves presenting their findings to the Regulan High Council of Science and Engineering. The chamber was packed with the galaxy's finest minds, all eager to hear about the mysterious human engineering methodology that had caused such a stir in the diplomatic community. Catrix stood at the podium, surrounded by holographic displays showing various angles of Zack's interpretive dance, Morgan's rubber chicken trajectory calculations, and Jamie's quantum cats playing with string theory. Distinguished colleagues, Catrix began, their antenna held high with newfound confidence. I stand before you today to propose a radical addition to our engineering protocols. We must officially recognize and incorporate human engineering principles. The chamber erupted in chittering whispers. One elderly council member's antenna nearly tied themselves in a knot. Furthermore, Catrix continued, activating a holographic display of Morgan's whiteboard drawings, complete with quantum physics-solving dinosaurs, I recommend we immediately begin a cultural exchange program with Earth's leading technical institutions. We need their wizards. Preposterous! Shouted Councillor VRX, their carapace practically vibrating with indignation. Are you suggesting we send our finest engineering students to learn from beings who fix quantum arrays with primitive rubber tools and interpretive dance? Actually, Catrix clicked smugly, I've already begun the exchange program. Would you like to see the preliminary results? They gestured to a side door which opened to reveal Polax leading a team of young Regulan engineers. Each was wearing a lab coat decorated with memes and carrying what appeared to be a standard-issue rubber chicken. Team, Polax announced with the proud dignity of a drill sergeant, show them what you've learned. The young engineers moved in perfect synchronization, performing what could only be described as a quantum mechanics-themed flash mob. Holographic displays flickered, probability fields warped, and somewhere in the background Jamie's quantum cats provided a surprisingly catchy beat. When they finished, the quantum computation array in the chamber was running at 4.2% above theoretical maximum efficiency. But that's impossible, VRX sputtered. Exactly, Catrix nodded. That's precisely the point. Humans have mastered the art of doing the impossible so regularly that they've turned it into a science. Or perhaps more accurately, they've turned science into an art. They brought up another holographic display, this one showing the latest efficiency ratings from various Regulan facilities. Every installation that has adopted human engineering principles has shown marked improvement. Yes, the methods appear chaotic. Yes, they violate the laws of physics. And yes, there has been a 2,000% increase in rubber chicken requisitions from our supply department. Catrix paused for dramatic effect. But it works. The council chamber had grown quiet, filled only with the soft sound of paradigms shifting. I have prepared a formal proposal, Catrix continued, bringing up a document that appeared to be co-written by Quantum Cats. We will establish a new division, the Department of Theoretical and Applied Human Engineering Principles, or THEP for short. And what, VRX asked weakly, does this proposal entail? First, we officially adopt the term wizard into our technical vocabulary. Second, we begin immediate production of Regulan-approved rubber chickens. Third, we implement mandatory interpretive dance training for all quantum engineers. The council erupted again, but Catrix noticed that the younger members were already taking notes, and several had begun experimenting with duct tape. Finally, they concluded, we must accept that sometimes the most logical solution is to embrace illogic. As the humans say, if it looks stupid but it works, it's not stupid. In the following weeks, the changes spread across Regulan space. Engineering departments began reporting strange phenomena. Quantum computers running on pure SAS, AI systems that performed better after being shown cat videos, and at least one warp drive that achieved faster-than-light travel through the power of interpretive dance and precisely applied rubber chickens. Back on Earth, Zach, Morgan and Jamie received official commendations from both NASA and the Regulan Science Council. The certificates were written in regex and interpreted by Quantum Cats. And in the Regulan embassy, Catrix sat in their office, watching a quantum bubble float by, playing a jazz rendition of Still Alive from Portal. They picked up their newly issued rubber chicken, gave it a thoughtful squeeze, and began practicing their interpretive dance moves. After all, they had a quantum physics presentation next week, and sometimes the best way to explain a complex concept was through the medium of interpersonal quantum ballet. Perhaps, they mused as their antenna swayed to the quantum jazz, there is something to be said for a little chaos in the system. The rubber chickens squeaked in agreement.